Well, welcome everyone to Meditation 101. This is the first session. There'll be two more sessions this month, so you're welcome to drop by. If you're watching this on the web, you're welcome to drop by in person and be happy to discuss, answer any questions, to respond to any queries that you might have. My name is Stephen Azuma, and I'm your meditation instructor for tonight. I'm just a volunteer, just a member at the local Buddhist center, Tubten Norbu Lane. And I've taken a few classes related to meditation, but I'm hardly an expert meditator. I also encourage you to look at some of the other offerings that come from TNL and take advantage of those. There's some very accomplished practitioners and teachers who also offer meditations, teachings, and so on. So, this particular course is really an introduction to a few basic Buddhist meditation techniques. And so I've tried to make it practical, nuts and bolts instruction with actual meditation practice. Those will be guided meditations that I will take you through. And specifically, we'll look at preparing for meditation. And that can mean a bunch of different things. That can mean how to take a seat in meditation, how to prepare your meditation space, and also how to mentally approach meditations. We'll do throughout these three classes breathing meditations. We'll discuss the two fundamental meditation skills of mindfulness and introspection, and go over at least two, more actually, more meditations that emphasize those two fundamental meditation skills. Again, mindfulness and introspection. We'll perform some visualization meditations, analytical meditations, which really just involve reasoning, going through a chain of reasonings or a thought process. And then finally, we'll end up discussing making meditation a habit. Now, this class is really designed for complete beginners, and you don't need to have any interest in learning about Buddhism. And the topic never even need come up, but if you have any questions, those are perfectly welcome, and you're encouraged to ask them. You don't really need any knowledge of meditation, but just some level of curiosity to learn about it and try it out in this class and maybe in between sessions. So again, you don't need to be a Buddhist in this class or to meditate on Buddhism. Really, the goal of this course is pretty simple, just to give you a basic understanding and a few tools to develop your own meditation practice. In order to do that, we'll walk through a selection of meditations that alternate with learning basic meditation concepts, techniques, and how to work with obstacles to practice. So, with that experience and information, the hope is that you can develop your own meditation practice and one that suits your needs and wants. And you're always welcome to share questions and impressions. And this is really a good way to help you and others learn a little bit more about meditation. So, we'll begin first with a meditation. This is called scanning the body. And I'll guide you through this, but I'll also interject some observations, maybe some other advice, and just try and keep you focused on scanning the body and bring you back to this particular practice. Well, why do we even begin with scanning the body? Well, every meditation session has a certain structure to it in this particular tradition. And we start out by relaxing the body and calming the mind. Whatever form of meditation you do or you want to learn, relaxing the body and calming the mind are really crucial to be able to establish a certain stability, certain awareness or attentiveness, and a certain calmness in your meditation practice. And we begin this by working with the body. The reason really why we use the body is that we look at our sensations that are happening in our body, and those sensations are always, by necessity, happening in the present. In focusing on present sensations, that prevents us from ruminating on particular thoughts, on planning for the future, or remembering the past, or fantasizing about things. So, by bringing our awareness to the present through scanning the body, we immediately begin to relax the body itself, and then that cues the mind to relax. So take what you feel is a comfortable meditation posture for you, one that's relaxed, alert, but stable. You can adjust on your seat. Me, I'm actually standing, and that's another recommended meditation posture. So take a relaxed, alert, and stable position. We'll discuss that a little bit more, how to achieve that later. So we begin by calming the mind and focus our attention on our breathing. Breathe naturally, just becoming present in the moment and place where you are. You can focus your mind on the rising and falling of your shoulders and chest as you inhale and exhale gently. You may even want to observe whether the breathing is deep or shallow, regular, irregular, short, long, or if it changes as you begin to drop in to the sensation of the breath. As your body relaxes and your breath begins to settle into a stable rhythm, you'll notice that your mind takes on those qualities too. So even just attending to the breath, letting it be natural and unforced, relaxed, yet alert, prompts those same qualities in the mind. In this tradition, the second part of a meditation session is to create a motivation. And this is an altruistic motivation for our meditation session. How do you do that? Well, you just simply think that you're meditating not just for your own benefit, but also for the benefit of those around you in your life. Through meditation, we hope to understand our mind, how it works a little bit better, develop positive qualities within our mind. And so we can think that in doing so, they'll be reflected in our behavior and our interactions with others. And they'll be able to appreciate those qualities as well. You don't have to analyze or enumerate any of that. Just see if you can ignite or promote a feeling of altruism, of openness in your mind. And see if you can dwell just on that feeling itself, not trying to take it apart or look at it too closely. Just let it be, just let it stay in your mind. In setting a motivation, we color the remainder of the meditation session and also give it a certain focus. Meditation isn't just relaxation. It's not just zoning out, but it has a point. It's a deliberate practice. And we support that deliberate practice by choosing a motivation, one that works for us. Now, the third part of a motivation of a meditation session is the main body of the meditation. And again, this is an exercise in scanning the body with the intent just to become relaxed, stable, yet alert in the body. And those same qualities, calmness, stability, and alertness in the mind will automatically follow in most cases. So focus your attention on your physical body. And again, readjust your sitting position. Make it so that it's stable. You can do that just by consciously being still. And relax the body again. If you notice tension or discomfort anywhere, just make minor adjustments even just mentally tell that part of the body to relax. Most importantly, we want to make sure that the spine is straight and upright. It's energized, but not straining or rigid. By doing this physical action cues the mental quality of alertness or vigilance. Now focus your attention on the lowermost point of your body, where your body is in contact with the earth. Can you feel the substance and weighty character of your body when you concentrate there? When you feel the substance of your physical form, its weight, how it's supported by the earth, how does that make your mind feel? What is the character of your mind when you place your attention in the lowermost point of your body? Now, slowly and mindfully, move your attention upward through your body. Don't rush. But instead try to pay close attention to every aspect of your body. Any physical sensations. Those might be areas of tension, which you can relax. You might have sensations of warmth or coolness. Now move upward through your legs. Your legs relaxed and comfortable. Your hips, your hands. They may be resting on your thighs or folded in your lap. Do they feel stable and relaxed? Now move upward, your belly, your waist, the curves of your arms. Again, just attend to the present sensations within your body. You find that you're getting distracted. Just return to the breath. watching the breath. And when you feel like your mind has settled, return to the scan of the body. Continue to move upward through your chest, your shoulders. Are your shoulders relaxed? Or are they elevated up towards your ears with tension? Well, you can consciously move them back and downward to help support the upright curve of the spine and induce a feeling of relaxation. You can even imagine your shoulder blades moving downward and then forward to support the chest in almost a circular motion. Again, this keeps the spine upright and energized in a posture of vigilance. The physical posture of vigilance, prompting the mental quality of attentiveness or alertness. The head is inclined slightly forward as we feel our attention move up through our neck. But the chin is pulled in, so it doesn't feel like the head is perched forward. Instead, it's resting atop the spine. Your attention to your jaws and see if there's any gripping, tension in the face in that area, maybe around the eyes or in the forehead. What do you feel there? And if you find tension, just relax it. And then finally, bring your attention to the very crown of your head. See if you can bring a clear and intense focus, one that's very vivid, yet stable at that point in the body, right at the very top of the body. If you can remember from the beginning of this meditation, when we began by focusing on the sensations in the lowermost part of the body. How do those differ from the sensations in the uppermost part of the body? Was your mind's character any different? Or is it the same? So we'll complete this meditation session with a dedication where we dedicate the positive energy and insights to our own well-being and happiness, and also to that of the others who are always around us. So that's the first meditation, scanning the body with the intent of relaxing it and calming the mind. I wondered if anyone had any quick comments, any observations, questions. All right.
Yes, I do.
Yes,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
Can you, um, my first question is, what is the difference? This is called a meditation. And I actually know a very similar thing as a relaxation exercise.
Mhm.
Can you define the difference between those two?
Yeah. So, and I kind of touched on this a little bit. Maybe I, didn't really explain it enough. But when we engage in meditation, we usually have some kind of goal. I'm talking, from the Buddhist perspective, but also um, from many other perspectives as well. And the goal is to either, you know, go through some kind of analysis, become more familiar with something that's happening in your life, understand how your mind works, look at the kind of the patterns and habits that we have now, maybe that aren't serving us, and beginning to short circuit those and develop new patterns and habits. So, in order to do that, we need a relaxed body and a calm mind. Otherwise, if our mind is all crazy and distracted and going, 100 miles an hour, it's going to be a lot more difficult to do those things. But if in your life, what you're looking for is calm and relaxation, then a calming and relaxing meditation is a meditation that's as valuable to you as one of those other types of meditations that I mentioned could be as valuable to someone else. So, really, they're both meditations. In general, as often as practitioners become um, more experienced, or maybe they have, particular agendas or goals or desires for self-improvement, they may move beyond that relaxation meditation, but still employ it as part of their meditation session. Did that answer your question?
Yes, yep, I get it. I get it. So, I mean, if I understand you correctly, it's basically a way of centering yourself for sort of like the next step, so to speak. Yeah? So it is,
Exactly.
yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
This is kind of related. It's like, so what is the ultimate purpose from a Buddhist point of view for meditation?
We're going to get into that.
Okay, Okay, I'll
But
hold that.
it's the Buddhist purpose. But I mean, it's a general purpose that I think many people are interested in, and so it doesn't have to be, purely a Buddhist meditation. I should say that all of the kind of techniques, many of them are derived from, Buddhist approaches, but they don't have to be used for Buddhist purposes or Buddhist topics and so on. Any form of, positive self-development or self-knowledge is fair game for this type of meditation, and these techniques can be applied to that. And you said something very interesting about centering yourself. What what we find, and you can look into this yourself and decide if it's true for you, is what in general we find is that when we begin to clear and relax the mind, it takes on a very neutral character. It's not excited, it's not colored by emotion or desire or anything like that. So, what we're doing here is we're actually setting the mind. You said centering, which is a good way of saying it. Another way of saying it is we're putting the mind in a neutral state when when we're relaxing the body and calming the mind, so that when we then establish our positive motivation, it's a lot easier. We're not distracted by what just happened to us before we sat down. We're not bedeviled by kind of ruminative thoughts and so on. So that's a way of like clearing the table. And then in the motivation, we set the table. Did that answer your follow-up question?
Yes, yeah, and I'll just volunteer that one of the challenges I have with regards to meditating is that my mind is so busy and I'm thinking, oh dear, I really need to do this and so, right? Some little whatever. And if I don't do it now, I'll forget it. Yeah. So I kind of race off to go do that. Yeah. So that's one of the challenges I have.
I don't think you're unique in that challenge. I think there's at least one other person in the world who has that challenge. It's actually pretty common. One thing to think about is this. One thing you can tell yourself, see if this works for you, is if it's something really important, when the meditation session is over, it'll come back to you. So you can just let it.
Sorry, I have to beg to differ there. It depends on your age. There is a slight dilemma later on in life because sometimes these things go away.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So, when my mind is particularly turbulent, say a lot has happened in the day, and this is just me. I haven't encountered this as a recommended meditation practice. But what I'll do is I know I'm not going to be able to concentrate. I'm already kind of like all distracted and, you know, all kind of, yeah, just energized. I'll just take a pad, and when something occurs to me, I'll just jot it down, and then I can forget about it.
Yeah, I have heard someone mention this previously, and that a very sort of evolved monk, that was his approach as well.
Okay.
So I thought, yeah, 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 okay.
Yeah. So you can do that as well. All right. Those are great questions. Thank you. And this really helps me in my instruction by, throwing these questions out, and, we can deal with sort of real life issues in meditation. All right. So we talked about this a little bit, and you kind of, anticipated some of the things I was going to say. In general, meditation is more than just, sitting on a cushion, focusing on a single object. And when I say object, I don't mean like a candle or something like that. I mean a mental object like the sensations of the breath or an idea or something, or an emotion, a feeling like compassion. It's more than just that. It can include reflections like thinking, reasoning, imagining, visualizing. It can include praying or studying, focusing on a personal or work task, visualizing an activity, and so on. So or as you pointed out so correctly, it can just simply be relaxing because that's what you need to do before you can go on to any other type of meditation. Or maybe it's just the most important thing you need to do. In Buddhist practice, and in particular in this Tibetan lineage, the word in Tibetan for meditation is gom. Gom is how it's transliterated. And what it means is to become familiar. So, familiar with how our thoughts, emotions, and perceptions work. And this is something that we all have to do individually because our minds are all different. Our trains of thought, our habitual patterns, and so on are all pretty much different. There's certainly commonality on some level, but we need to become familiar with our own mind. So that's a key aspect of what you might call the traditional elements of meditation. And also, from that same traditional perspective, meditation is used to become more familiar with the positive aspects and less familiar with the negative aspects of our mind. So, more familiar with the thoughts that bring happiness and less familiar with the thoughts that bring discomfort, suffering, and pain. So, in a way, it's a form of training the mind. So, evolving our own mind into something that is more serviceable for us, something that brings us more pleasure and happiness. It gives us the support to do the same for others. So you could look at that as the traditional perspective on meditation.
Uh, yeah, Stephen, that's helpful. And I'll say that I know that from a more secular point of view, some of what you're talking about I would call self inspection, which I've done a fair amount of. And the other thing is then the backup is that that we hopefully try to put our attention more on the positive results of self-inspection rather than like guilt and bad thoughts and history where it was painful and horrible, and then overcome that by focusing on basically the good bits. The other thing I'll volunteer, if you don't mind, is that when you were doing the meditation to start out with about the body, one of the things that I realized that comes up for me is my incredible gratitude for this body because it's relatively healthy. And I really appreciate that it's, done me so well, I have to say. So that's something that I think is really good, to have that attitude about yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that gratitude is such a core fundamental emotion that really underlies so many of the other positive emotions and actions that we can engage in. When we're grateful for something, it's something that, our body, in your example, our body is giving us by being, relatively healthful and serviceable and pliant and so on. Or we can look at all of the other things that we've gained from others, labor, how many things in our lives, have we made ourselves from complete scratch without being like even taught by a teacher, just have come up with like the total raw materials we've discovered and just made something for ourselves. I can think of very few things. So gratitude is really core because then it takes us outside of ourselves, not thinking about number one all the time. Then we can begin to think of others. And then we can begin to have empathy and sympathy for them. So it, to me, in my view, is really the foundation for compassion. We see that there's others who have served us, and then we can begin to kind of integrate with them and feel their pain and their suffering and know that we're not above or separate or distant from that. So gratitude is, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Just to like circle back a little bit to what you said before, in doing self-inspection and familiarizing, one of the mental qualities that we're working on developing is mindfulness. And that is just simply being able to put the attention on something like the breath and resist any distractions and keep the mind on the breath. So, putting it on the object and resisting distractions, those are two of the functions of mindfulness. And we find the more familiar we get with an object, the more we bring it up in our mind and let it reside there and let it persist there and kind of re-emphasize it, re-energize it, bring it back and again, the easier it is to be mindful of it. The problem is, though, we can do that just as easily with a negative object that makes us feel bad as we can with a positive object. So by choosing the wrong object and dwelling on it, we're actually making it more and more present, more and more sticky in our attention. And that is sort of the Buddhist psychological theory behind the functioning of the mental factor of mindfulness. So we select those objects and then bring our attention back again and again. The byproduct of that is if we're successful and we're able to continually replenish our mind by placing it on positive objects that are serviceable to us, helpful. So they don't need to be necessarily Buddhist topics, but they can be just in general altruistic ideas, helpful ideas, generous ideas, compassion, and so on, which are pretty much universal. If we can just begin to fill our minds with those and continually replenish our minds again and again and increase the power of mindfulness, their ability to persist, then we actually change our lives in the sense that really our experience is what, for the most part, resides in our mind and our mental and sensory consciousnesses. And so we're kind of curating the rest of our lives by undertaking this practice. I don't know if that made any sense at all, but I jump in if
No,
you.
I will jump in if I've got any questions. No problem.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. And
Okay.
I particularly, I think the word choice is important in terms of, do we choose to focus on the negative or the positive experiences, thoughts, etc. And for me, I know some people that I care about very, very much, and they're really good people, but and I don't understand why it is they have a mind that focuses on the negative things about themselves, and they can't seem to free themselves from that. and I feel a great deal of sorrow and anguish for them, but I don't know how to advise them what to do. You know, it's like, God
Yeah,
knows I try, but you can't necessarily impact on them.
yeah. And I can't really comment. I'm just sort of, just a basic level meditator. It's yeah, and we have to say, and I know from my own life, some of these kind of negative situations, negative interactions, traumatic experiences have an incredible power of their own to reassert themselves. So, definitely that brings up, feeling of compassion in me, for myself or for anyone else. So many people going through these difficult, difficult situations. And I guess maybe, the first step is just even knowing that you can, to some extent, mitigate these, you know, incredibly powerful negative emotions or thoughts, habitual ruminations, and so on. To even just know that they aren't fixed in your mind and that there's ways, different ways. This isn't the only one, but there's different ways of weakening them gradually, again and again, over much time and effort, just making it easier and easier to disengage and then choose something else. Well, I thought we might then head next into a brief meditation on counting the breaths. Well, I hope it's a good segue because this is really a technique for building mindfulness. Mentioned already that there's two fundamental meditation skills that we're going to discuss in this class. And mindfulness is what's called single pointed attention to an object, the breath, other bodily sensations. It can be emotions, visualizations, or some other thing that you have in your mind, where you just choose to keep that as long as you can, keep that object in your attention. So you choose that object and then hold it in your mind. That's the power of mindfulness. And then you resist any distraction for your mind to move away from that object. So that's mindfulness. In reality, what may happen is we might choose an object like the breath, but then be distracted even within a few seconds. This is totally normal. It is not unusual. It may seem unusual if we've never looked at our minds so closely with a basis of calmness, relaxation, and attentiveness. But it really is normal that our mind is always moving. It's always moving. In the traditional presentation, the air element is associated with the mind. So, in the same way that air is light and moving, so is the mind and its attention. So, what we want to do is just train our own muscle of mindfulness in order to restrain this somewhat, with the hope that when we choose an object, it will have the qualities of stability, clarity, and intensity. So, really, the point of mindfulness is to dwell on our chosen object of mindfulness and rest in non-distraction. Again, this may only happen for a few seconds. So we need another skill, and that is called introspection. So here, introspection is an inner awareness and observation of the stream of consciousness, the thoughts, the emotions, and so on. Where we've placed our attention. Has it moved off our chosen object of attention, like the breath? It's kind of like a spy in the mind or a security guard that's in the background, maybe barely in our consciousness. But when we forget about the breath, or maybe thinking about a vacation, maybe somewhere in Europe, I don't know, Italy, for example, and we've totally forgotten the breath. It notices, our introspection notices that, and then knows what to do. That is, just gently but firmly bring the attention back to the breath. That might seem like, as a meditator, you've failed, but that is completely wrong. In fact, meditation, in this particular mindfulness type of meditation, placing the attention on your chosen object, whatever you wish, sensations in the body, the breath in particular, an emotion, an idea, a thought process, placing the attention on a particular object, monitoring it in the background to ensure that it's stable, clear, and intense, or noticing when you've gone right off of the object and then bringing the attention back to that object. That is actually the practice of meditation, that whole cycle. You can think of it as, if you do any kind of weight training, you can think of it as a repetition. And by going through that cycle each time, again and again, paying attention, trying to lengthen slightly each time the amount of time that you can stay on your object. And while you're on your object, making sure that it is stable, clear, and intense. Each time going through that 5 seconds at a time, 1 second at a time, again and again and again. Each time is like a repetition that builds up mindfulness. And so that mindfulness and introspection or monitoring, it's also called vigilance. All it does is it observes what's going on in our minds, like a tourist or scientist, checking the quality of our mindfulness and tuning it, or noticing that we've just become distracted. And then that vigilance gently brings the mindfulness back to the object. That is introspection. And those two together are the type of mindfulness meditation that we're doing now. And we're going to do that with counting the breaths. Now, with a little bit of explanation there, I just wondered, are there any questions? Was that maybe that makes sense? Was it too abstract? Maybe your mind works differently. Okay. All right. Well, again, we're going to go through um, the 4 stages of a meditation session. We're going to calm the mind by relaxing the body. We're going to set a motivation, just kind of set the tenor, the flavor, but also the focus of our meditation session, our mini meditation session here. Then do the calming or counting the breaths meditation, and then we'll finish up by dedicating. I'll explain a little bit more about the function of dedication as well once we get there. So counting the breaths, a great way for building mindfulness. You get so many opportunities to go through those repetitions. that I just mentioned. But first, let's just relax the body and calm the mind. Just bring the whole mental consciousness into a clear, neutral state. So focus your attention on your breathing and just breathe naturally. Don't try and control or change your breath at all. Just let it be whatever it is. You can focus the mind on the rising and falling of the shoulders. You can focus on the sensations at the nostrils, the cool air coming in and the warm air leaving. You can focus on the sensations of the belly expanding and the diaphragm moving lower in the body. The different places you focus to watch the breath can act as antidotes for different problems as you begin to settle into your meditation session. If you're feeling dull and drowsy, maybe your view of the breath, your apprehension of it is murky and dark. Focus on the nostrils because the higher up in the body, the more energized our mind is. If conversely, you're finding that the mind is too energized, it's hard to resist distractions. They seem to be coming again and again, whether it's other sensations like sounds or feelings in the body or thoughts. Focus lower in the body, which is more stable, more grounded. The diaphragm, the belly. Focus at a lower point to reduce the energy of the mind. So here we have a technique to kind of tune our consciousness, not too energized or excited, but still attentive, not too dull and sleepy, but still relaxed. And having gained that foundation, we can set our motivation. And you're welcome to use your imagination in creating an altruistic motivation for the meditation session. You can definitely think that you're meditating for your own individual benefit, to make you maybe a better person, more of the person you know that you are, but also maybe these insights and observations of your own mind might be of use to others. Maybe even just your own calm, relaxed, and attentive demeanor off the cushion will be something of benefit to those people around you. And if so, they may want to be with you as well. That's the motivation. And then let's continue with the meditation of counting the breaths. Here we start by focusing our attention at the opening of the nostrils. Not only is it higher up in the body, which emphasizes the mental quality of mindfulness and attention, but it's also very tightly constrained. So it's not like you're watching the entire breath cycle or the grosser movements of the chest and diaphragm. It's very constrained spatially. So it helps focus the attention. Again, this can be too much, can make the mind excited. So use the antidote I suggested by returning the attention to the breath lower down in the body, or just the whole cycle of breath if it gets too intense, exciting, and distracting. But we're going to use this very focused attention as a way to develop our mindfulness. Those sensations, cool air entering the nostrils, warm air leaving them. How stable are they for you? How clear are those sensations? Can you even feel different parts of the nostrils? Be a difference from one side and the other. How intense, how engaged are you with those sensations? What has likely happened many times since we started this meditation? How often have we become distracted? And then through the power of introspection, notice that and gently but firmly brought our attention back the sensations of the breath at the nostrils. Mindfulness, keeping the attention on the sensation of the breath at the nostrils. Mindfulness, resisting distraction from the sensation of the breath at the nostrils. Introspection, telling us how stable, how clear, how vivid those sensations at the nostrils. Introspection, noticing if we're not even paying attention to the sensations at the nostrils, and instead smelling the smell of delicious meatballs in the oven. So now we simply superimpose upon that the counting of the breath, inhalation and exhalation together. Inhalation and exhalation, 1. Inhalation and exhalation, 2. And so on up to 10. Counting of the numbers are like guideposts on a road that we're journeying along. And they just remind us that we're attending to our chosen meditation object. And in between the counting of the numbers, we return to the sensations at the nostrils. Now, the last stage of our meditation session is to dedicate. And here we dedicate the positive energy and insights to the well being and happiness of ourselves and all living beings. So, again, this takes us full circle from the motivation to the dedication, making this a positive experience. What we do is we might remember this whole session. You can dedicate this session and all of the hard work that we've been doing in here. And definitely, this is hard work. We can remember that. Maybe any kinds of realizations, confirmations, observations, insights, whatever. We just might bring them back in our mind, but then set those aside too, and just simply generate a feeling of accomplishment. Maybe making some tiny progress forward, being able to ask questions and hear the experiences of others, just all of that. Distill that into positive feeling. Just leave it as it is, just that distilled essence of everything we've done in the past hour and a half. And remember that. Make it as intense as you can, as clear as you can, stable as you can in your mind. Just that feeling. And from our everyday, ordinary perspective, that memory helps bring us back to the meditation cushion, helps motivate us to return to the next session, a practice where consistency is paramount. And with a positive motivation from the Buddhist perspective, all of the work we've done creates positive energy, virtue, which is the substance we use in a Buddhist dedication. An example, just for your interest, just to look at, might be for as long as space endures and sentient beings remain, may I too abide to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.